Hello student, today we will talk about the biography or introduction of V.S. Naipaul. Sir Vidyadhar Suraj Prasad Naipaul, most commonly known as V.S. Naipaul, was a Trinidad-born British writer of works of fiction and non-fictional in English. He is known for his comic early novels set in Trinidad, his bleaker novels of alienation in the wider world, and his vigilant chronicles of life and travels. He wrote in prose that was widely admired, but his views sometimes aroused controversy. He published more than 30 books over 50 years. Naipaul won the Booker Prize in 1971 for his novel In a Free State. In 1989, he was awarded the Trinity Cross, the highest national honor. He received a knighthood in Britain in 1990 and in 2001 the Nobel Prize in Literature. In the late 19th century, Naipaul's grandparents had immigrated from India to work in Trinidad. His breakthrough novel, A House for Mr. Biswas, was published in 1961. On the 50th anniversary of its publication, he dedicated it to Patricia Anne Hale, to whom he was married from 1955 until her death in 1996, and who had served as first reader, editor, and critic of his writing. At University College, Oxford, Naipaul's early attempts at writing, he felt, were contrived. Lonely and unsure of his ability and calling, he became depressed, and he took an impulsive trip to Spain, where he quickly spent all he had saved. He called this trip a nervous breakdown. 30 years later, he called it something like a mental illness. Naipaul moved to London in 1954. In January 1955, he and Pat were married. In December 1954, he began appearing on the BBC radio program once a week. In 1956, Naipaul returned to Trinidad and stayed there 2 months with his family. In 1962, Naipaul and Pat went to India, the land of Naipaul's ancestors, where Naipaul wrote An Area of Darkness. For the first time in his life, he felt anonymous. even faceless. He was no longer identified, he felt, with a special ethnic group as he had been in Trinidad and England. It made him anxious. He was upset by what he saw as the resigned or evasive Indian reaction to poverty and suffering. While in India, Naipaul wrote Mr. Stone and the Knight's Companion. He accepted an invitation to write a monthly letter from England for the Illustrated Weekly of India. Back in London, after an Area of Darkness was completed, he felt creatively drained. He felt he had used up his Trinidad material. Neither India nor the writing of Mr. Stone and the Knight's Companion, his only attempt at a novel set in Britain with white British character, had spurred new ideas for imaginative writings. His finances too were low, and Pat went back to teaching to supplement them. Naipaul's books had received much critical acclaim, but they were not yet money makers. Socially, he was now breaking away from his circle, but no doors had opened to Naipaul into mainstream British society. In late 1964, Naipaul was asked to write an original script for an American movie. He spent the next few months in Trinidad writing the story. A novel named A Flag on the Island, later published in the collection A Flag on the Island. The finished version was not to the director's liking, and the movie was never made. The story is set in 1964 in a Caribbean island that is not named. The main character is an American named Frankie, who affects the mannerism of Frank. Frankie has links to the island from having served there during World War II. He revisits reluctantly when his ship anchors during a hurricane. Naipaul willfully makes the pace of the book feverish, the narrative haphazard, the characters loud, and the protagonist fickle or deceptive, and the dialogue confusing. Balancing the present time is Fickey's less disorder, though comfortless memory of 20 years before. Then he had become a part of community on the island. He had tried to help his poor friends by giving away the ample US Army supplies he had. Not everyone was happy, but receiving help, and not everyone benefited. Frankie was left chastened about finding tidy solution of the island's social problems. This theme, indirectly developed in the story, is one of which Naipaul would return. Naipaul was awarded the Booker Prize for In a Free State in 1971. He won the Jerusalem Prize in 1983. He was awarded the Trinity Cross in 1990. He was also made a Knight Bachelor at the 1990 New Year Honours. He won the Nobel Prize Literature in 2001.